What's up, guys? Richie back again with another video. I got a pretty interesting one here. This is a 2017 Ford Edge. Funny story. So tow truck driver took it from the auction, took it upon himself to diagnose this thing as needing a transmission. So it went to a transmission shop that I wish I knew the name of. I'd love to put their name out there. It sounds like some good guys down there. Instead of putting a transmission in it, after pulling the codes, they noticed these codes. So they noticed all these codes in here. You know, we got cam codes, we got misfires, we got oil pressure codes, battery voltage codes, you know, all this stuff going on. The guy actually called us and he said, you know, I know you wanted to put a transmission in this thing, but are you sure you don't want to maybe take a look at some of this other stuff you got going on? And at that point, the buyer of the vehicle called me and said, hey man, you never looked at this car, did you? And I was like, no, you know, I keep a pretty good record of everything I touch. So now the vehicle's here, and I want to show you something interesting that was taught to me a long time ago. You can own all this fancy scan tools and equipment that money can buy, but it'll never replace your five senses. So, you know, visual inspections, you know, your eyes, your ears, your nose. I don't recommend tasting things, but your eyes, ears, and nose. And I think at least one of these problems might be fixed by what I'm about to show you. So I'm going to start this thing up. Now listen to this thing when I stab the gas pedal. We call it a throttle snap test. Listen to this. I'm not sure how well that transfers over to the cell phone here, but you hear how loud that thing is? Now, whoop, it's gonna die. Now you don't have to work doing this 17 years to know there's some kind of issue, and that noise isn't normal. Let's go ahead and do a visual inspection of this thing before I go any further. Let's just take a look under the hood. Alright, so we got a 2-liter Ecoboost. You can see someone's been in here. It's missing the isolator that goes on top of the motor. So it's got a brand new vacuum pump that's nice and shiny. So somebody's been messing with this, maybe trying to figure out what's wrong with it. Looks like we got fresh RTV underneath the valve cover and some pry marks. So somebody's had this top cover off. My guess is trying to figure out the camshaft codes. But back to that noise, right? Usually that noise is like something's unhooked on your intake here, which you can see this has been off or didn't get put back on right or something. But otherwise I don't see any leaks here. Check, make sure there's an air filter in it. Sometimes they're noisy if they don't have a filter. It's got a filter in it. Check this out. What do you see there? That is the pipe off the intercooler going to the intake. Wide open, hanging right off. So, I mean, that didn't take any tools to fix or find, rather. We're gonna put that back on, try to get a good baseline on this thing and see what happens. Go from there. So under further inspection, I tried to reach that pipe up to the throttle body where the inlet is. See if I can get my camera in there. That big oil filter out of the way. Damn. Alright, so I tried to get this pipe up there and attach it where it was unattached from. But it's under a lot of stress. It doesn't want to reach. It doesn't want to go over the throttle body. So after more research here and bothering my local Ford parts guys, let me show you what I found. So this is a parts breakdown of the intercooler plumbing, and let me get my marker out here. So what I'm missing is this guy right here. That's all I really need, but I have to buy this whole, everything in purple here. I gotta buy all that stuff. It's all one piece. It's coming out of Atlanta. I won't have it till tomorrow. But I'd like to start there. I mean, I can't drive the thing really. It's limping around. It doesn't make any boost. So we're gonna start there and see what we got tomorrow. All right, we got our pipe from Ford. You can see they sold me the whole thing. I just need this top piece. So I'm only gonna install this piece. This is an internal repair, meaning it's mine and I'm selling it to the auction. So for what I need to do, I'm not gonna struggle putting this whole thing on. I'm just gonna slap that on there. If it was a customer's car, like a retail repair situation, absolutely would put every bit of that new part on there. So I didn't film this, but after doing that pipe down there, my map sensor was giving off some funky readings, and lo and behold, the map sensor is actually unplugged. So I just plugged that in. Map sensor values went back to normal-ish, at least within range. What I'm doing now is I want to attack this camshaft solenoid code that I have. I got a couple of them. One thing about this is I've never bench tested these while they're still in, but I don't feel like pulling that valve cover if I don't have to. So I'm just going to back probe the connector. Don't ever pierce the connector unless you absolutely have to, and if you do, go back with some liquid electrical tape, something like this stuff here. That's what I use. So if you do have to pierce the wire, make sure you go back and cover it up. So I'm just bench testing these things in vehicle. I can put my hand on it and feel if that solenoid is clicking inside the valve cover. This solenoid controls oil flow through the cam gear, which is called an actuator. The actuator will advance or retard timing on the fly. It's basically variable valve timing ignition. Now you'll see if I touch this, you get a little bit of a spark. See if I can zoom in on that. So I'm completing the circuit. It's sparking, but the little solenoid in here isn't doing anything. I'm going to test this back one too. Pretty safe to say it needs this. It might be totally stopped up with junk or something, I'm not sure. It could just be dead. We're going to check this one too. Maybe this one will give me a little click and actually actuate. See what happens. Alright, so putting power to these, they don't click. I'm just checking resistance on them now. See, I got my connector back probed. We'll switch this over to ohms. See, I got 9.1 ohms resistance, and we'll check the other one out. Back probe the other timing control solenoid. 9 ohms resistance. Normal is about 8 to 12 ohms, I think. 8 to 12 ohms, so that's normal. Granted, when I bench tested, it doesn't do anything, so we're just going to go ahead and get those solenoids coming. They are cheap. They're like 20 bucks a piece. And I'll get a valve cover gasket since I'll be taking that off as well. I don't know, someone was definitely in here. I could see the fresh RTV. Of course, they may have been replacing this thing here, the vacuum pump. Maybe they had trouble keying it to the camshaft or something, I'm not sure. Either way, I can't go off what other people have done. I gotta go through my own process that I go through to get these cars fixed. And let's see if it works. First, let's eat lunch. Sweet waffle. Don't judge me, alright? Alright, so these are your camshaft timing solenoids. Here's they basically control oil pressure through these, which are the actuators. So solenoid, actuator. That's something you always got to remember. A lot of people get them confused. Basically, it controls oil pressure through here, and it will adjust. You know, basically turn. Instead of being keyed straight to the camshaft, it is adjustable, so it'll turn and advance or retard timing on the fly, depending on the oil pressure coming out of this thing. So let's pull these out. They were sticking. They weren't doing anything. I already got the bolts out. Damn. Ooh. Hey, what do you see there? See that very fine screen on the left or right? There's also a fine screen underneath all that crud you see. So obviously we have an oil flow issue through this thing. If not, the actual solenoid is just jammed up with, you know, little tiny flakes of metal and whatnot. Rear one, not as bad, but so I'll get the focus. Not as bad, but still lots of junk in there. There's a nice side-by-side comparison. It's a new part on the right, the old part on the left. Solenoids are in. I've got my valve cover gasket, seating surface all cleaned up. Something I want to mention, you got to put a little bit of RTV on here, just a little bit. You don't got to go crazy. Right where the timing cover meets the cylinder head, over here as well. And if you're that guy that puts globs and globs of RTV on, stop it. Get some help. We are back together, boys and girls. I got my valve cover back on. Got the battery. I put a new battery in it. I changed the oil. I'm not going to do a oil change video or anything like that. If you watch stuff like that, go subscribe to Scotty Kilmer or something. And on that note, if you subscribe to Scotty Kilmer, I have a message for you. Stop it. Get some help. Started right up. No oil pressure light. Maybe I just had a bad oil filter on there. I do have an oil pressure switch coming just because it was so cheap. I might be able to return it actually. Oh, it sounds good. Sounds really good. Let's see, let's just make sure we don't have any codes. We're gonna go back to fault scan. Pass, no fault from the PCM. I'm gonna drive this thing and just confirm that it's fixed. Wow, a lot more power now. I'm gonna take a look at some camshaft data once I get to a stopping point, but I'm pretty sure we fixed this thing. Alright, here's our camshaft data. I wish I had before and after of this, because before I had like -50 or something like that, which was way too much angle on the camshafts. I just had my record button not hit apparently when I was attempting to film that video, so I don't have that. I apologize, but it's confirmed fix. There's no check engine light on this thing. It runs good. That's it, guys. Another one bites the dust, so they say. I'm just at home now feeding the birds. My wife's making dinner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if it was helpful for you.